Hey everyone, just before we get into the video, I just really want to say thank you to all the support and the comments and the huge influx of subscribers I've just been getting recently. It's been crazy. And I've also seen like on this boxing forum, Boxing Forum 24, people have been sharing my videos around, so I really appreciate it. Any place where you share my videos like Reddit or boxing forums is really appreciated. I can't thank you guys enough. Alright, thank you anyway. If you do want to do that, by the way, feel free. I really appreciate it. Anyway, let's get into the video. Thank you again. As much as we all love boxing for the technical chess-like strategy by two men limited only to their hands to inflict damage and impose their will on their equally limited opponent, we can't lie, sometimes the technique isn't all we are looking for. We are also looking for animalistic entertainment. From nightmare-fueled pure knockout artists like Julian Jackson, Gerald McClellan, George Foreman and Edwin Valero, to fighters who bring nothing but their absolute best to every fight, such as the likes of Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez, Juan Francisco Estrada or Rocky Graziano. The man we are talking about today personifies the latter with an iron chin, an unbreakable will and entertainment value that promoters can only dream about. That man is Arturo Thunder Gatti. Gatti gave the world of combat sports more classics fights than possibly any other in the modern era. From his wars with Ivan Robinson to the beyond legendary trilogy with a rival who somehow matched his untenable tenacity in the likes of Irish Mickey Ward. His whole life was movie-like, his party-like attitude, his never-say-die attitude, and his mysterious death. Gatti for his entire life in boxing highlighted every attribute of a full-fledged warrior, and this video is to go over his remarkable classic-filled career. Just quickly before we do start onto Arturo Gatti's career, if you do enjoy my videos, please subscribe so you stay up to date. Now let's get into it. Arturo Gatti's amateur career started in his adopted homeland of Canada, where he reportedly had won 3 Canadian Golden Gloves championships and 2 Canadian national titles, all before the age of 18. Gatti also represented Canada in the Junior World Amateur Championships, failing to win a medal. He left the amateur scene with a record of 86 wins and 14 losses. Gatti was now professional and his debut took place on the 10th of June 1991 against Jose Gonzalez at the Meadowlands Convention Centre. Gatti, who weighed in at 57 kilograms or 127 pounds, would crush his first opponent with a technical knockout occurring in round 3. Gatti's next 4 opponents would suffer the same fate, however much earlier. Gatti would defeat all by knockout or TKO in the first round, with some exceptionally quick fights, with one lasting 19 seconds and another only 28 seconds. His 6th fight was against Joe LaFontaine, who had a record of 2 wins, 2 losses and 1 draw at the time, and was Gatti's first ever fight scheduled for 6 rounds. Gatti would earn his first ever decision win in this fight before coming up against a man named King Solomon 6 months later. In this bout, Gatti suffered his first ever defeat at the hands of Solomon, losing a split decision. According to BoxRec, one judge scored it 55-59 and another 55-58 in favour of Solomon, whilst the last judge scored it 57-56 in favour of Gatti. This loss spurred Gatti on, however. Gatti would win all 8 of his next fights by stoppages. Then on the 8th of January 1994, Gatti defeated 12-3-1 Leon Bostic by a majority decision. A 41-second TKO win over Daryl Singleton followed before Gatti faced Pete Taliaferro for the USBA Super Featherweight title. Taliaferro came into this bout with a record of 25 wins and 2 losses, but was no match for the Italian-born Canadian. Gatti dropped Taliaferro 3 times in the first round before the fight was stopped. Gatti defended the USBA Super Featherweight title twice with a 10th round TKO win over Richard Salazar and a wide unanimous decision victory over Jose Sanabria in November 1994. Gatti was now on a roll. 4 fights, 4 wins and 4 knockout victories followed, with 3 of them coming in the first round, which earned Gatti a shot at the IBF World Super Featherweight title against Tracy Harris Patterson. Patterson had a superb record of 54 wins, 3 losses and 1 draw coming into this bout, but that didn't seem to affect Gatti. Gatti was fighting off his beautiful jab while Patterson was using terrific upper body movement, looking to counter Gatti's lead hand with a devastating right. However, Patterson became overeager and an excellently timed uppercut from Gatti had Patterson crashing to the canvas in round 2. Gatti's continuous use of foot feints while pulling the right shoulder back in the process allowed him to generate a large amount of power on the right hand when he would explode with a combination stemming from this right. When the fight ended at the end of the 12 rounds, Gatti's hand was raised and he was the new IBF Super Featherweight World Champion. A 6-round KO victory over Wilson Rodriguez heralded his first successful defense of the title before Gatti moved up to 137 or 62 kilos to defeat Feliciano Correa by 3rd round KO. Once again, Gatti returned to 130 or 58 kilos to defend his crown in a rematch against Tracy Harris Patterson, and once again Gatti came out on top with a wide unanimous decision. A 7th round RTD victory over Calvin Grover 136, and then he defended his title for the last time with a 5th round TKO win over Gabriel Ruales. Gatti then permanently moved up in weight at the beginning of 1998, where his seemingly invincible run ended at the hands of Angel Manfredi. Manfredi had dropped Gatti in the 3rd round before the ringside doctor called a halt to the contest at the end of round 8 due to a cut Gatti had suffered. Gatti had lost and was looking to make a comeback 7 months later against a man known as Ivan Robinson. Robinson at the time had a record of 25 wins and 2 losses and was considered to be a big underdog. In one of Gatti's most legendary fights, he and Ivan Robinson went to absolute war. Both men tried to kill the other in a fight not for the frail of heart. Gatti would drop Robinson in the 4th round, but Robinson got back up and kept battling on. When the final bell rang, it went down to a split decision. One judge scored at 93-98 for Robinson, the next judge scored at 96-93 for Gatti, and the final judge scored at 94-96 for Ivan Robinson. Robinson had defeated Gatti and served him his 3rd loss of his career and his 2nd in a row. This fight earned the 1998 Fight of the Year and the 1998 Upset of the Year by Ring Magazine, and it wasn't the only time these two would meet, as a second fight would come to fruition the same year on December 12th. Once again, both went to war in another great fight, but what turned out to be a pivotal moment in the fight occurred in the 8th round, where Gatti was deducted a point for low blows. This is because on 2 of the judges' scorecards, the fight was scored at 95-94 in the favour of Robinson. If Gatti was not deducted this point, the fight would have ended up as a draw, which would have culminated in a trilogy bout, but it was never meant to be. Gatti had once again tasted defeat for a 3rd consecutive time and was hungry to get back into winning ways. Gatti would then win his next 3 fights by stoppage, beating Reyes Munoz in the 1st round, Joey Gamache in the 2nd round, I'm going to butcher his name, but Eric Jakubowski in the 2nd round. Gatti would weigh in at a career high for the Jakubowski fight, coming in at 149 pounds or 67.5 kilos. A wide unanimous decision victory over undefeated Joe Hutchinson was next before Gatti faced boxing superstar Oscar De La Hoya. At the time, Oscar De La Hoya's record was 32 wins and 2 losses and was coming off his split decision loss to Sugar Shane Mosley. The bout was staged for March 2001, with Gatti attempting to get a signature win over one of boxing's megastars, but it wasn't to be. Gatti was very good, but De La Hoya was still an incredible fighter. De La Hoya stopped the courageous Gatti in round 5 at the MGM Grand, with most spectators believing Gatti's career was on the downturn. But Gatti still had a bit of magic left in the tank. He defeated Teron Miller by TKO in the 4th round in January 2002, before one of the most spectacular boxing trilogies ever would begin on the 18th of May 2002, when him and Irish Mickey Ward would meet for the first ever time. A fight and a trilogy which still lives on in the memories of boxing fans everywhere. A fight which would immediately place in the hall of the greatest fights of all time was staged. It wasn't for a world title, but it was for something much more. The fighting pride of 2 men who had nothing but fistic pride. Between 2 fighting cultures, Irish and Italian, and 2 men who had never heard the word quit in their entire lives was staged. A fight I still get excited about to this day. The 2 men left everything and more in the ring. Gatti was penalised 1 point for a low blow in the 4th round, but wasn't deterred until the round 9, a round which Emmanuel Stewart once said was the round of the century. A signature body shot by Mickey Ward dropped Gatti, a body shot mind you which by all definitions was perfect. Gatti was in pure pain and wasn't getting up. Until he did. Gatti somehow got up and kept fighting, staying on his feet the whole round and even coming back later on in the same round to get some great shots in himself. One more round passed and the fight was over. It was up to the judges, and once again the point deduction played a big part in the end result. One judge scored at 94-94, another 93-94 for Ward, and the last judge scored at 93-95 for Ward. Although Gatti lost it, it was a blessing in disguise for the boxing world. If it had been a draw, Gatti's promoter later remarked a rematch with Ward would have never happened. Gatti Ward 1 would later win the Fight of the Year, but Gatti Ward 2 was on the horizon, and this time Gatti wasn't gonna lose. A good fight in all aspects, but not matching up to its predecessor, Gatti dismantled Ward by completely outboxing him. Gatti had won a wide unanimous decision, which meant the rubber match was in store. The last fight of this incredible trilogy occurred on the 7th of June 2003. A fight much like the first, but Gatti would break his wrist on Ward's hip early in the fight, but both men carried on in a match that more resembled a battle between gladiators than boxers. But when the decision was announced, Gatti was victorious again. Ward would retire with a record of 38 wins and 13 losses, and the bout would win the 2003 Fight of the Year. Gatti and Ward would become best friends after, and Ward would eventually help coach Gatti for his last couple of fights. These 3 monumental fights and those 2 wins would earn Gatti a shot at becoming a world champion again when he would come up against undefeated 32 wins and 1 draw Gianluca Branco for the vacant WBC World Super Lightweight title. Gatti would not let this chance go by, winning a convincing unanimous decision win over Branco. 2 knockout victories over Leonard Doran and Jesse James Leah in defense of his crown led him to the doorstep of 33-0 Floyd Mayweather Jr. in the June of 2005. Both men engaged in heated pre-fight banter, but then when they both stepped in the ring, Mayweather was a different class. Possibly my personal favourite Mayweather bout, Mayweather turned Gatti inside out. It was like Mayweather couldn't miss. An utterly dominant performance from Mayweather culminated in a stoppage. Gatti had lost and his time at the top was over. Gatti would defeat Thomas Darmgard in his next fight, but then would be stopped by both Carlos Baldemir and Alfonso Gomez in his last 2 fights. Gatti would retire with a record of 49 fights, 40 wins and 9 losses, with 31 of those victories coming by way of knockout. Gatti would pass away under extremely dubious circumstances on the 11th of July 2009. The official record states it as a suicide, but what a lot of people believe is that allegedly his wife would murder him or assist in the murder of him for his wealth. Evidence such as it was impossible for him to land under the kitchen counter if he had hanged himself, him and his wife filing for separation a little while before, his wife spending 10 hours in the hotel room without noticing the body, bruises on Gatti's body, a muscle relaxant being found in his system, the wife coercing Gatti to sign a prenup 3 weeks beforehand, threatening to take Gatti's son away from him if he didn't sign, among much more. The case was eventually reopened and once again Brazilian authorities ruled it a suicide. They closed the case and his wife was set free. But I would personally like to remember not his death but the way in which he fought. A chin of steel, a heart the size of 1,000 fighters, and an underappreciated level of boxing skill. Arturo Gatti is a testament that sometimes you don't have to be a generational talent to become a legend, but sometimes all it takes is to never say die and keep moving forward no matter the obstacle at hand. So that's my video on the human highlight reel Arturo Gatti. What's your personal favourite Gatti fight? Leave it in the comments below. And if you did enjoy, please don't forget to subscribe and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.